Attorney came too.
Good evening. Welcome to the Town New Paltz Planning Board May 13th meeting. Up first on the agenda is review and approval of the minutes of April 22nd. I have a motion to approve the minutes. I'm here, Peter's here, Lyle's here, and Tom's here, so we do have 4 votes on it. So I have a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Lyle. Peter?
I would just like
Yep.
a little bit of discussion is that I'm really only approving the portion I was here.
Yes, I fully understand that.
You need somebody to approve the entire set?
Well, he can't make comments on the part that he wasn't here. So, but we can throw it out for discussion.
Well, I can make a motion for the whole set. I don't know if that makes any difference.
We'll put an asterisk next to Lyle's name on the motion that he's only approving the part that he was in attendance at. Any comments on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next up is a session for public comments. Another issue other than the public hearings. If anybody wishes to make any public comments at the meeting at this time. Does anybody wish? Paul?
Thank you, Mike. My comment tonight is to deal with the applicant, Wilmerites, partly with their application to the Ulster County IDA. And by the way, I think at several meetings, the applicant has devoted time to telling, and written letters to the board telling them what you can't do and what you can't ask and what you should do. I hope you will proceed to ask the legitimate questions as you have been doing, and to look at seeker in terms of the environmental impact and certainly the financial impact. But we do have the data from the applicant on pages 29 and 30 of their application to the IDA, and we know exactly what the payments are that are being offered under this negotiation for a pilot, should it ever get to that point. And I urge the board to take a look at page 29 and 30 of that application. And the reason I raise that is the Ulster County IDA was in town last week for another hearing, and if this application should ever get forward with the IDA, there would be a hearing in town. I attended, and it was very interesting. It was for Viking Industries on South Ohaville Road, which is about a $13 million a year business. You've seen the warehouse. We know the printing machines. They've been before this board. They're good citizens. They have 70 full-time equivalent jobs, a little more, 70.4. And they make about $13 million a year. It's not a very impressive building. But I think it's one of the fine examples of how the IDA spurs industry, and they're good corporate citizens. They take care of the land. This current applicant, Wilmerite, has a $60 million, if you read the DIS, $60 million project. Lori King, our assessor, has said that it would be assessed in the first year about $1.5 million. If you extrapolate from that, over the 25 years that the applicant is asking for a pilot, without any pilot, they would pay $60 million. So there's one number, $60 million. If we look at the applicant's application to the IDA on that page 29 and 30, and by the way, it's $1.5 million the first year. Well, here in the IDA application for the first year, the offer from the applicant is $101,900. So you could take the $1.5 million that our assessor says would be due versus the $100,000. That's how far apart one is in whatever. Now, I don't know who's got a fantasy number. One of the attorneys talked about Fantasyland, but to me, in the face of $1.5 million in the first year versus 100,000, that's more of a fantasy number than any I've heard. You start to look at the 25 years in the application, again, page 29 and 30, and the applicant has gone up 3% a year. They said there'd be a cost of living increase. So in the 25th year, that 100,000 payment that they're offering would grow to 304,000. Okay? And if you add all of them up, 1 through 25, the applicant is offering about $5,179,000. But the assessor points to the fact that we could get 60 million, okay? So there's partly a mental picture. Tonight, I know the applicant has said that they're coming forward with new figures on the police costs, and I'm happy to see the chair of our police commission, a longtime member, Ira Margolis, who was, I thought he was the police commission for many years. I found the committee, by the way, to work very hard and be very informative, and they're really concerned about getting the numbers right. It was a little disconcerting, Mr. Chairman, to hear you describe that you were having trouble getting information from some of the department heads. I don't believe, and I can't believe you were referring to Mr. Randall Leverett, our chairman of the police commission, or the chief, because I've seen how hard they've worked to get these right numbers, and I hope the board, if the chairman says that some people haven't been helpful, I'd like the board to be assertive and find out who they are. Because everywhere I've heard is that the department heads were trying and are trying to get you the right numbers. So I found that the board gets close to asking a question of the chair, but just not close enough. And so if your hearts and minds tell you that you need more facts, I hope you'll ask the chair to clarify who wasn't doing their job and who wasn't cooperating and why you're so frustrated. Because my data shows that people are working hard. So either we'll learn from the applicant what the police costs are, but as you get that number, there's a $60 million payment that if there was no pilot, there's a $5 million offer. I don't know, what would the police cost over that same period of time? Maybe we'll learn tonight. That's one anchor. So I'd like to keep that, I'd like you to keep that in mind. And again, 70 jobs come from Viking Industries. This applicant is offering 7 jobs at about $16 an hour. They're not even good jobs. Many of those people have worked at Viking for 25 years. They're making $80,000 to $100,000. It's a very nice success story for Viking, for New Paltz, and for the IDA. This application to the IDA, that's really been my concern, not the buildings, not the residents, not the 732 new nighttime residents, but they will take police time, those 732, and we're going to find out hopefully tonight how much money that'll cost the town each year. But I don't think $100,000 a year or even $300,000 a year from the applicant as part of a pilot is going to approach what those police cost. But we'll find out tonight. The only other thing that I would say about the whole project is I hope it is good for the college, and I hope it solves a lot of problems. But I haven't seen a lot of imagination from the college in the past several years, and there's a lot of data showing that other big projects in this Hudson River area, like Vineyard Commons, like Woodland Pond, with all the projections and all the research, they're not filling to capacity. And now the Vineyard Commons is renting to anybody who will take a room. It's not the board's responsibility, and the applicant knows this and I know it, to look at their business model and to suggest that they may not have done the best due diligence. That's not what the planning board does, either in SEQR or anything else. But I just hope that if the project is built, that it fills up with students and it benefits the college. But I'm not so sure of that. But it's really, all I'm here tonight to do is ask you to keep following the money and see if this project makes financial sense with a pilot. I think it may make sense, but it doesn't make sense with a pilot. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else want to make comments? Okay. We'll move on to public hearings. We have a public hearing on Polaris, 143 South Ohioville Road subdivision, lot line revision. I have a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion?
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We began our public hearing a few weeks ago, and one of the applicants was present and had some issues and concerns that he wanted to address, so I suggested that the two applicants sit down together with me and make sure that we iron all of those issues and concerns out before we moved forward with the application. I believe that Mr. Ankru has determined that he is very happy with the road frontage issue and understands that that is a great benefit to the property. And the main issue at this point in time is with regard to the underground utilities. We have shown a proposed additional pole to be located at the end of the town road on Mr. Ankru's property. We forwarded the plans to Central Hudson, and they have an estimator working on it right now to determine whether or not that would be the best course of action. That would be preferable to Mr. Ankru rather than, as you'll recall, the difficulty
We were
was-
underneath, yeah.
Yeah, and do you want maps?
Well, I think we'll just put them in for later, Ridden.
The issue was that right now, there's a utility pole, the wires from there go under the existing driveway and then along the easterly side of the driveway to the rear house. So with the construction or an extension of the town roadway, that no longer would be feasible. So the alternative is to put them underground on the westerly side of the roadway or put in a utility pole and tie into the existing underground service from there. So that is the choice that Mr. Ankru hopes Central Hudson will go along with, and right now it's in Central Hudson's hands. But
Okay.
we had held the public hearing open to make sure that both of the applicants were still on board with the project. I did point out to Mr. Ankru that before this gets signed by the planning board, it gets signed and witnessed by him as well, so that all parties are
Yeah,
very
that's right,
clear on what the application is and what's being approved.
All right, so we'll schedule for you next meeting when you get some, if you're ready to come back on May 29th. We'll go
Right,
through
yeah, I'm not
seeker.
sure when I'll hear back
Yeah.
from Central
When you
Hudson,
hear
but
back from
certainly
them,
that is.
we'll then, well, we'll do the seeker at that time, so I want to keep the public hearing open until we finish the seeker.
Oh, keep the
okay.
public hearing open? Okay.
Yeah. George doesn't let me close them until I do seeker.
Okay, so as soon as I hear back from Central Hudson, I'll let Kelly know, and
And then
we'll
we'll-
get back on an agenda.
Right.
Okay. Any other issues or questions that the board may have? I think we had addressed everything.
We got some drainage on this. We haven't finished the review on that,
Okay.
Mike, but I think it's pretty simple. I don't
Yeah.
think there'll be an issue with that.
All right. All right. Anybody else have any other questions? A motion to continue the public hearing on the Willamette subdivision to May 29th?
It should be May 27th, right?
No, Monday, that's Memorial Day. We're going on Wednesday. Wednesday, I go-
Oh, good thing you said something. I would
Yes,
have,
yeah. Don't come
May
Memorial
20
Day, we won't
okay.
be here.
May 29th,
It is a
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
And if I don't hear back from Central Hudson, by then I'll just tell Kelly to keep us over to the next
Yeah,
meeting.
we'll
Is that-
we'll just go through a motion and
Okay.
open it and extend it. That's what
Okay.
we'll do.
All right, very good.
So you come back with the...
Come back with the plans,
The
with what
final
Central
one,
Hudson's.
and Dave finishes off on the drainage, we're good to go on that.
Okay, all right,
All
very
right,
good.
thanks, Patty.
Thank you.
Application review, we have a Valamis on 238 Main Street demolition. Anybody here to represent them? Have we seen anything from them? Okay, we did ask them at the last meeting about going green on that spot, and looking for some update of that. It did go to county as is, and county had no impact as far as county planning. So we've signed off on county. They're in agreement with us about going green anyway on that spot. But I'd like to see what they're going green with. But
No, I just walked by that building today. It's a nice old building. It's a shame that they want to tear it down.
yeah,
It isn't.
no, we'll have to discuss with him. Okay, so we'll just we'll put him back on the agenda, Kelly, when we get something. Two things before you wander off.
Before I run,
Yeah, you're running out the door on me, I know that. Dave, you want to talk about the town map?
Yep.
Everybody,
Need to make a change to the official town map. And I've given copies of the changes and kind of blown up because they're a little hard to see on the small map.
you got a copy for Tim? Did you?
Yes.
I'm looking at Tom.
Okay. One is Rose Lane. There's an existing right-of-way that runs through there. The private road ends where it's shown on the map. And it'll be changed to extend through that right-of-way without the roadway being shown on the town map. According to Town Law 280A, you can't pull a building permit. So this will allow a building permit on that.
Does that mean that that's accepted as a town road?
No.
no,
Oh.
No. The other one is Antonio Lane, which is over off South Ohioville. It's kind of the same issue. There's a right-of-way there. There's two lots that are landlocked at present back there. One of them does already have a house on it. I'm
Yes.
not sure exactly how that happened, but there's another lot that's capable of having a house. And the third change is up in the legend. I just wanted to add to that. Right now it says private road. I want to add or private right-of-way and then not publicly maintained in parentheses, just to make sure.
What's the distinction in your mind between private right-of-way and private road?
The private road was something that has a maintenance easement on it, that it was shown on maps usually as a separate parcel or owned to the center by different folks. Private right-of-way is more of an easement, just an easement across somebody else's land.
Will you be showing all of the right-of-ways?
On these two, yes,
Uh-huh.
Are they deeded easements? I mean, are they described?
they are,
So you can show exactly where they are.
yes.
So what is the new designation for Rose Lane in particular?
Rose Lane is a private road to where it ends, and now this is a right-of-way as it continues.
So now folks who have property on that private right-of-way will be able to pull a building permit?
Right,
And however it was categorized before, they were not able to pull a building permit,
that's right.
but it continues not to be a town road. That's
One of the people that live on Rose Lane was paying taxes on a, I don't know, $50,000 lot or whatever, and was going to build on it someday, and then got a tax bill, and the taxes were practically zero, and came in and complained about getting such low taxes, and found out that it wasn't a building lot according to the maps. So this will rectify that, and she'll be able to pay taxes again.
what about access for emergency vehicles and things? To have a building permit in a location that's questionable access?
The roadway is improved. It's not up to town standards, but it is improved, and according to the town building inspector, it's meets the accessibility standards for issuing a building permit.
It has to provide safe and adequate access, not necessarily town standard access.
the town board started this process, and I saw that it needs to be a recommendation from the planning board has to be sent to you first, so I'm hoping to get a recommendation back from the planning board.
Anybody have any comments on the modifications to the town map?
Are there any other roads that could, or any other rights-of-way, where this could become, someone could make a request and say, I want the same classification?
Stacy has been reviewing deeds, or been pulling deeds on several that are possibilities. I haven't seen those yet. These two were right-of-ways, deeded right-of-ways, and I'm not sure where she's at in that process. There might be more to come.
Any comments? It's just that it's a process that we see them before the town board can approve them. So basically, that's why we're seeing them.
Dave, I just have a question about the Rose Lane map. So is that where is the aqueduct relative to the end of this?
That runs right up to the aqueduct.
So this new private right-of-way goes up to, so that this outline of the continuous north-south strip of land is the aqueduct?
Yes.
Are these private rights-of-way or public rights-of-way? Can the public access over this right-of-way?
I believe they're private. The way the deed reads, it's private. It's two individuals. There's nothing in the deed that says it's public right away.
Okay, I just want to know for the record.
But these aren't the only private roads in the town.
No, we're looking, Stacy's looking at others that she thinks might be a potential. I don't know where she's at. She's been looking at that a few months, and these two came up in particular.
There's a couple of nuances here. One is if it's a road, code does define roads and rights-of-way, and it does distinguish between public and private. So a private road can be a road which is available to the public, but privately owned and privately maintained. Private right-of-way by easement is generally not accessible to the public, which is why I was curious. So those may have different, they have different access rights for the public, and that may or may not be relevant, depending upon the circumstances of each one.
Yeah, I can understand. So a private road could have multiple dwellings on it, and with multiple dwellings, have different people visiting using that road. I'm thinking like Roma Place. There's a number of homes on that.
Right.
But it's accessible to the public, even though it's maintained privately. As opposed to, say, this one on Rose, which would be, Rose Lane could be a private easement for that single home.
Yeah. It actually, I'm not sure, but it might be all three: a public highway for an extent, a private road for an extent, because it's open for public use, and then a private right-of-way for the remainder of the property.
To that extent, maybe the town map definition should pick that up.
I hope so.
So, we know what we're talking about when we mention it, rather than, I mean, I don't mind color-wise, but if we got that kind of terminology, we should have definitions for them, I think.
I can even show a different symbol on these. I thought of that. That might be even clarify it further.
Yeah.
So is there a potential to create new lots on this right-of-way?
There could be, but you would have to approve a plan. when you approve the plan, the subdivision plan would be added to the town map. That's the normal process for subdivision, is to, once it's approved, the town adds it to the town map.
I guess I would think maybe we need a note that say not a town road. You know, if that would come up, that, you know, that we would have a note on any kind of situation saying that this is not a town road. This doesn't buy you anything,
Well,
from us anyway.
Yeah.
you get into a different issue because, as I recall, to do a subdivision, you have to have a road which will be a public road.
Oh,
So it has to be suitably improved and dedicated, offered for dedication. And the presumption in putting most subdivision roads on the map is that they are offered to and will be accepted by the town for town maintenance purposes. This is acknowledging that there are properties with different arrangements that have existed. The properties to the north generally, I think, are, well, I take that back. There's a complication, there's a complicated explanation, but generally, you'll approve a plan, and it will be added to the map.
Okay, so make a motion, make a recommendation to the town board regarding the approval of the town map, and incorporate the comments that were raised at the meeting. And defining private right-of-way, or, and to maybe use a different,
Well, what about road frontage? How would that change? Where, the definition of road frontage, I mean, a private road would not qualify as road frontage. Right?
Correct. But if, for example, someone was, well, the lots that already exist
Okay. if
would
they're
be
pre-approved,
pre-existing
yeah.
non-conforming lots from that standpoint.
Okay.
The instance in which a new subdivision is proposed, you would have to comply with the code or receive a variance.
Okay.
So either they would be proposing to construct it as a town road, or there would be some other arrangement for access to the property.
okay?
Okay.
Okay. Now, a motion, have a second?
So move. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next meeting is, the town planning board is May 29th, it's a Wednesday. I will not be in attendance at that meeting. I hope you're feeling a lot better. Does anybody else have anybody else has an issue with it, please let me know the date, but it is a Wednesday night. It's May 29th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's all. Thank you, Lyle. With that, we can move over to Wilma, right? Tell us where you're at.
David.
With Peter Inland. Back again. Monday night. Rangers go on Game 7 at 8 o'clock.
I already been informed of that.
25 minutes sound good?
I just got,
So move.
I have to get up at 5 tomorrow,
oh,
reading bird census.
Dave, there we go. Could you translate the DOT's letter?
We didn't get that as part of crazy email stuff that's been going on.
Yeah, I got a printout on that. I read it, and I'm not sure what they said, but if it's state law, I can.
Is this a new letter? Or?
No, it came out in April 23rd.
Oh,
Yeah. Because I thought, then it says, and furthermore, and then on the next time you come around, and the next time you come around, and
we have responded.
Yeah, we had that.
yeah,
We have responded to that, and we're waiting for them to concur.
okay.
Just as far as status goes.
We had, in case you didn't know, a few glitches with the town website, town email process.
We were attacked, right?
And we were attacked. We were hacked. I think it sounds hacked into it. And but if you need to have any friends in Uzbekistan or Turkey, we've probably been writing them back and forth. So Kelly's been sending out things at least last week, and the week before that. Some of us have gotten and some of us haven't gotten, so we've gone back and forth to try to rectify that. So if something comes up at the meeting tonight, or some discussion, and somebody says, I haven't seen that, let me know. I think we're back in sync with emails, so it could have been that we just have to resend something that was sent before. So bear with us, but it was the
So,
agenda.
Did you say that you guys have a response to this, or you're working on it to the DOT?
I'm sorry?
Did you say you have a response to this?
No,
DOT?
we responded to them.
Yep.
We have not got the return response yet. Those letters will be in the FEIS as well.
It looks, Mike, like they're trying to think ahead for future development on the east side of 32.
Did we get a copy of your response? So we don't have
Yeah, it'll be in the FEIS.
This week.
You'll have it this week.
Now, yeah, did you see the DOT letter?
Yeah, I read the DOT letter.
Oh, okay, so you got it. I didn't
Yeah, I
get
was just curious
it.
about the
All right.
the response.
That's why I was just getting at it, to make sure people had gotten it.
No, I didn't get it.
See that? Yeah, that's what I meant. I think we'll try to send that one back out again, Kelly, just to make sure. I mean, Eileen's not here. I don't know if she received it or not, so.
Well, yeah, what we've been trying to do is, Mike has asked, is to try and get all the technical folks technically to be on board with what's in the FEIS. Doesn't mean that you folks may have some different ideas. It just means that they've reviewed things technically and found them to be consistent with policies and procedures and so on.
The other piece is they're talking about the sidewalk and
Yeah, actually that was good news.
constructing the sidewalk within the right-of-way is not feasible. Land donation should be made. Kind of saying the same thing about a left turn lane. If that's warranted, a donation of land would have to be required for widening. They have something in here about complete the smart growth pre-screening tool, which I presume Ken Worstad is on top of.
Yep.
So outside of the future planning part, it's pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, I saw that, but then I got to page 2 and it said, besides that one, it refers to forward submissions as followed. Once a document, they expected that detailed DOT comments will follow conceptual approval and subsequent submissions. So I just, wondered where this was in its relationship to its detailed comments, which I'm not sure what else they're looking for if you're holding back on them.
I think they're looking for site plan detail. This went to their seeker unit probably.
Yeah.
They have a seeker unit now.
There's a separate permit process for entrance
Highway
permits.
work permit.
And
Okay.
utility highway work permits, yeah.
All right, again, to just,
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for getting that printed up.
that's where I was talking about. Okay, well, tell me where you're at. I think we postponed the Spider and Martin et al. On the wetlands until the next meeting. I did get something from Scott Wagner and Spider, so we would just want to get them to coalesce on some of the tree issues that they were, one's raising or one's saying, I'm not sure what exactly it is.
Okay.
But we want to have them at the meeting too, so we all hear at the same time and come out to a conclusion on that one. So that's where we're at now. Where are you guys at?
We were planning for today just to discuss site plan review, because like we said last week, in the last couple of weeks, we haven't had that chance. And we haven't finished the FEIS. We're having, the last few people make sure numbers are accurate before we submit that to you guys. And worked with, Doug has been working on it, and that'll probably be coming via ether in the next 24 hours.
Well, I just see
if that's the right place to send it. But
make sure it gets out, because like I said, I think the email system is up and running, the website's up and running, but
I met and spoke with Dave last week, and we were going to just send it directly to him in a Word format. I got some comments from George Lithgow beginning of the week about some format, and I think we're making that change as well, and we're pretty much ready to send it. So it'll be an electronic form to you in your hands and to the board, or however you guys distribute it. I was just going to send it to Dave because there has been problems with the town's email system and everything else. So they'll have that hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow.
And how much of it will that be? The whole?
Yeah, that'll be the final, our final reformatted
all appendixes, all exhibits, everything.
Then everything will be, all the appendix and attachments and everything else will be on that same FTP site that we had before for reference until the document is accepted, at which point then we would then, after we reviewed it and everything and made revisions or whatever Dave has to do, we would then submit it out in hard copy to all the different interested involved
agencies. Right.
So that was the plan, I think, from last time. We were hoping to have it done by now, but just hasn't. So it's just obviously a lot to review, and so just want to make sure it's done the way we've all agreed to send it. So
yeah, I like the when George talked about the numbering system at the last meeting, I knew line numbers on that. It's makes it extremely easier to follow from everybody's page what line you're on, and I've seen it in numerous documents of late. And it helps me when I'm trying to figure out what the third paragraph was. So then is it really that top one up there is a paragraph or not? We got the continuation of the last one.
So I think in between, once it's sent, and did I just hear you at the next meeting is on a Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
Michael, is that the one you want, Martin? Do you want Martin and Spider at that meeting, or the meeting you're going to be at? The next meeting you're going to be at?
We should be able to function without me at a board.
Yes, so that meeting. Okay.
Yeah. By the way, there isn't any major discrepancies between Martin and. I think you might have seen what Spider's responses were.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to work out those.
That's what I meant. That's why I want them all three here, and and to.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was just Martin couldn't make it tonight.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest problem.
Which of Spider's responses?
He sent out. Did you get? It's in your folder, right? They just came. I think just a couple of days ago. But they're going back and forth on that, and those are the comments that Spider came up with, because we told him we wanted him to read over that material before we put it up, and then I got the impression Martin had some responses back to Spider to straighten that out, and then we're going to meet on the 29th and address them all, because Al had some comments on Spider's moving trees around. Al had some comments on the success rate of moving trees and whether it's really viable when trees get to a certain size. So I want to have his discussion in with them too, so we all hear it together and come up with a conclusion of what can be moved and can't be moved. Makes sense. All right.
And then I guess from that same aspect, you know, identify, if you guys wanted to identify exactly what sections to review that night so we could be prepared with the right, you know, folks, whether it's architect or, you know, economist or whomever else, you know, or Martin, whomever it is, you know, be the appropriate thing to do. If we have enough warning, we could, you know, have them here for that review section.
I think we'll have this.
I'm sure you guys have a discussion after you actually get the document.
Right. Well, we'll get the document and then I'll canvass the board and get something to you before the 29th. This is what topics we want to hit first up, and we'll see where we go from there. But obviously, getting Spider and Martin and Al at one meeting is the goal of the 29th. I want to really accomplish that because usually I can be there at 8 and it comes out to be 9 or something else like that. So I just want to make sure we get the right date in.
So why don't we just commit to the ecology section if, you know, we have those folks and.
Well, that definitely. What I'm saying, is there anything else over and above that? I always like to have a couple extra just in case. If we don't think we're going to get to it at all, I wouldn't want to bring anybody down. But
we'll make that first, anyways.
Yeah,
we've kind of reviewed that draft section quite a bit the last 2 meetings. So I mean, I think it's probably not going to be.
Should be quicker.
It should be quicker, yeah. So I mean, we'll probably just be speaking to specific comments from Spider, reviewing his comments and whatever we end up reviewing, but it should be okay.
All right. On that, I think we go back onto the site plan. And I know we have, basically Dave has worked through their comments back to you, or I got to get where we are on this thing.
Doug has been working through them as we go, getting more detailed information.
Yeah, I think the only thing Dave doesn't have is we had some soil testing that we're doing for the green infrastructure. It came in later, so we've got those details sort of ironed out now.
Okay.
So we certainly could go through those specifically if you want to just kind of flip through the exhibits related to site plans. We could do that. We also talked about maybe going through sort of the history of how we got to where we are. Whatever your pleasure is.
Yeah, I mean, that was really something that was brought up in the last 2 or 3 meetings, and it was mostly by, I think it was Eileen.
Eileen, yeah.
Said, you know, knowing the full history of the site itself and evolution of plans, whether, you know, college plans or the, you know, Mike Moriello's plans or our plans, and how they've come to, you know, what they are today, what it, you know, that was sort of an evolution of site planning, and which is, you know, the result of obviously a lot of input from a lot of individuals, you know, here at the planning board, the zoning board, town board, from campus focus groups, from the college, from a lot of people. So that was sort of the intent, but if Eileen's not here, I really hate to not do that without her present, because she's been the one asking for it. So.
Do you want to do it? Would you like them to go through the history of this? I know you guys got on board.
Just gonna have to do it again.
Late when the application already was in, and the planning board itself got on board after they had been working with the village for a couple of years. So there were some certain site plans that hadn't been ever before the town planning board that existed for this site. So what's your druthers?
Not particularly.
You don't want to hear it? Okay.
I feel like I've heard a good amount, but if it, I
mean, maybe it would make sense to wait until we have Eileen.
Yeah.
In case she has her own questions, because,
All right.
Yeah, it's a good idea to wait.
We'll make that the...
she could watch it on TV, but then she couldn't ask you questions.
Call in.
They do it at the golf matches.
Yeah, okay.
But it does seem like a useful exercise, because sometimes we have asked questions about site plan, And the response has been, well, actually, that was a response to what the planning board had asked about in the past. And
Yeah.
like you said, if you're providing us with some history of how you arrived at X, and that would be useful for all of us, but I think it would be especially good if we had kind of Eileen as our point person, just because she has the most experience in terms of this stuff.
All right, so we'll put that on for the 29th.
Number 2.
And 2, and then, yep.
So I could, if you like, just flip to the exhibits, which show the plan elements, if that's helpful to you. I don't know what your druthers are.
Sounds like a good starting point, but I don't think it will get us some focus on it.
Yeah.
So do you want to just put it on the table here, because it seems like it's posted, it's a little far away over there to view?
I can. The only problem is I flip it.
Oh, okay.
So it makes
Yeah.
All right.
I brought a set of plans if you want to put them out. I know. It helps.
And these are different than the old plans that we've got
A little
in
bit.
just black and white.
Not major differences. The basic plan is the same as it has been.
Can we, hold on, I just want to make sure that he can see it also.
Okay. But I'm right here.
Yeah, he's right-handed. He's definitely going to be confused now.
Obviously, the basic plan has stayed pretty much the same. We have the main entrance off of 32 in this area and the secondary entrance out here. We went with sort of a boulevard-type situation with on-street parking, which lessens the pavement overall than having separate parking lots. So that was helpful in that regard. We've talked about pretty much, well, I won't get on there because there's an exhibit, but we have the clubhouse out in the front. This is the faculty staff housing over here, 32 units. And the remainder is all student housing units. A couple of the things that we did from the previous plan is we put this sort of traffic circle here, and we kind of wrapped the buildings around the corner, which was a suggestion of Dennis Doyle at County Planning. So we've had input from him as well. He's fairly respected, and my understanding from Tom is he's pretty much on board with this plan the way it is now.
Why did he suggest that?
He feels that it promotes a village character by having the buildings go around the corner rather than having a building here and having a building there with a space in between them. That was the main reason for that.
A lot of the boulevard approach was Dennis's and the county planning when we went up to see them. It seems like a while ago.
And Dave, too.
Right.
Very helpful.
The connection through the campus is up here, and we have an exhibit that just blows that up. This is where we're coming in. This is the secondary road from 32, and this is our boulevard road coming in. And the access will come down through here. This is a temporary school building that's been there for 20 years or something. This is the maintenance area. The college themselves are actually going to design and build this connection. They asked that we extend what they consider their major type sidewalk system up to our project. So it's an asphalt system about 8 feet wide with another couple feet of brick on the sides, if you've seen them out there. So that's considered their major high travel design. So we bring that up to our site where it connects into our sidewalk system. That same sidewalk extends down here into some of the community areas of the college itself. Recreation plan, sorry this doesn't show up real good, but this just highlights where our official designated recreation areas are on the property. There is a requirement for a minimum square footage of recreation area, and so we have that exhibit in there to describe those areas and show you how much it is. This is sort of an overall circulation plan with the yellow routes being sidewalk and path routes. Obviously, these areas go around some of the ecological areas. They'll be nice for the students there. They go around the pond here, access out to 32, and that extends over to make the connection to the existing sidewalk system that goes down into the village. So there'll be continuous sidewalk access from Bellaterre Apartments up through the project and to the North River. And of course, also, as we said before, into the college campus itself. The bus route will come into the site, turn around the cul-de-sac, pick up the students, and go back out. Then we've got...
Comes out 32.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Comes down south and makes a right turn.
I should have known that based on the purple line, but yeah, you're right. You're right. It comes in 32, picks them up, and then goes out. Sorry about that. And Tom has gotten further confirming correspondence with them that they are on board with that route. Right for you, aren't I, George?
I see.
That bottom loop is going around a stormwater detention pond? Uh-huh.
It's a wet pond, so it's sort of a nice area. I'll describe it a little bit when we get a little further on. And certainly Martin, with Spider's help, can describe it a little bit more as well. This was just a blow-up of the campus connection sidewalks separately there and there. Now these pieces are being built by SUNY. They're not being built by Wilmright. And in there, just for general reference, we show a larger picture of the sidewalk network that extends in through the college and out to the village. This is the off-site water main system. Is there familiar with where that is, or should I go back and show you? It's the farm stand is here, and the hillside rises up over here. So it's on that property. So here's your farm stand. Here, that's his house. So the water main will come in. There are 5 production wells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 2 in this one location. One is proposed as a backup. We need about 66 gallons a minute. With 4 running, that means 1 not running. We can produce 97 gallons a minute, so there's a fair amount of excess capacity in the pump supply system as it is. The water treatment plant and storage tank will be in this area. The tank itself is a 37-foot diameter, 35-foot high. For reference, sorry, I can't see this better from where you are. These tanks are 50-foot high, but they are at a 15-foot lower elevation, so actually the top of the tank is going to be about the same as the top of the tank here. And we had done visual simulations with the DES. You really can't see these tanks, and you wouldn't be able to see ours from Route 32 either. Access would be in through Apple Hill Drive, name of the road? Apple Road. Mike's house is here. The easement through there. So that's a much shorter distance than trying to follow this route to get in there to service the tank and to function and operate the water supply system.
And the service people come once a day?
Once a day.
Yeah,
it's not, they'll come in once a day to make sure everything's running out.
Where's the current access to the village water tanks? Like which road is used?
They have a driveway right here.
Yeah.
I don't know what this road is, Mike, you may.
Yeah, they come up of Bruce Street, comes up, and they have a right of way through the property my dad owns.
Okay.
So Apple is just a straighter shot to these new water tanks?
Yeah.
Well, Apple, the alternative was to come along here to get up to really the main service area, which is the treatment plant itself, which is up here.
But Apple's currently a dead end, right?
Correct. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Ends in a cul-de-sac. So
Yeah, it's gonna be a 20 foot wide. right?
Easement.
Yeah. Okay.
The on-site water system is just the thicker lines on the plan. It just goes through the site. The water comes from across the street into the pool house building. There'll be a water softening system in there, and then distribution system would be from there to the treatment plant gets water as well. This is just a graphic showing the wetlands and their proximity to the development. It's in the packet. And this striped area is sort of the unregulated wetland buffer area. And I'll show you what the trade-off was. Rather than go into these areas in the back in the woods, the preference was to get a little bit closer here and here because the value of the buffer, if you will, was not as great as the value of the wooded area back in here. So that was all part of the early thoughts and discussions we had. And you'll see when we go through the history, at one time we did have development back in there, and so did Mike in some of his plans. And this just shows the green space on the property, natural buffers and enhanced buffers.
Can you go back one?
Enhanced
Doug?
buffers are the lighter color.
Go back to the one before it.
Okay.
Hypothetical question.
Yeah.
Town wetland law is in effect. Is any of that area developable that you've shown in green with the buffer?
Yeah, by permit, yes.
Only by
permit, yeah.
By permit?
Yeah, only by permit, yes. So, the lighter green on here just shows buffer enhancements in sort of a general area. Again, we're up against the wetlands with those enhancements. This plan attempts to show graphically the landscape features and buffer enhancements, green infrastructure practices, stormwater management. So it's sort of a visual landscape plan, if you will. Each of these colors represents different plantings. I think I would leave that up to Martin and Spider to go through because I'll just fumble. But it's safe to say that we're spending a whole lot of effort into providing a lot of variety and habitat, a lot of different plants, trees, and other herbaceous. And we have a number of details that show some of the features of the ecological enhancements, the vernal pool type of detail. And then we just show some cross sections of what should be between, in this case, a sidewalk and the parking area, things like that. So we have some vertical cross sections that show those features in a number of different areas. I've certainly answered questions on these, but again, I think these are more for Spider and Martin to go over with you. Different treatments in different areas based on the slopes and so on. This plan is fairly important. We've talked about the soils that have been impacted by pesticides and arsenic over the years. And the findings, we've now done about 32 soil tests. We've expanded the number of soil tests extensively, but the findings of the soil testing are really pretty clear. The higher levels of arsenic are all within the abandoned orchard area. Also over here where the sewage treatment plant is. The soils in the woods are clean, and the soils in the pear orchard and along the frontage are all clean. So we've got a fairly extensive plan here that shows how those soils will be treated. but in a nutshell, we take the clean soils and put them in topsoil piles for later use. The soils that have been impacted by the pesticides and arsenic would go into berms that we would put the earth in. And on those berms, we will cover those with clean topsoil. And then again, much of the area in here will be covered with impervious areas as well. So there won't be any exposed, impacted soils on the property when we're all done with the project.
How far down would you be scraping to get the arsenic to the...
Well, the test pits show that they really are in that it's mainly up in the upper six inches or so.
That's right.
There were some traces down deeper. So we're going to take 8 inches off the top, that's both soil and subsoils, and put it in the mitigation berms. The rest of the soil, actually what happens then, as you go down, you're going to be taking the cut soils, these are subsoils now, they've got topsoil, and you'll be taking them from the top and you'll actually burying those in the deepest areas of the site. So the soils that are near the surface get the deepest burial, if you will. So when you're all done, the rest of the soils are buried or stripped in the cut areas, and the whole site is covered with clean topsoil or impervious areas.
What happens to them as time goes by? I mean, are they just inert and just stay there, or do they go down? Or?
No, they don't move. Really.
They don't move. They're just inert.
They're not water soluble. Okay. Which proves out when you do test pits and see that they are deeper, if you will, in the soil. The content or the arsenic.
The berms will be shown on the erosion control plan in this way?
Yeah, they're shown on this particular plan was done specifically to show the beginning erosion control measures, what you're going to build first, second, third, that kind of thing, sequence of construction, but also what you're going to do with the soils right off the bat, after you do your clearing. So we have a fairly detailed sequence of construction that goes along with this. We have each area identified. So to say, move soil from area 8 or 1 to area 3, so on and forth, sort of step by step right through it.
Mm-hmm. But those are protected from erosion while they're stockpiled. I think that's important too.
Yes. Yeah, the intent is to cover those completely.
And there's dust control measures, because I heard people express
you'll see in the plan, we've been consulting other measures that we'll take during construction will be some air quality monitoring, some simple things like having the guys wear masks, washing off the vehicles and their clothes before they leave the site. So those measures are spelled out in the FEIS. You'll see that when you get to that. So one of the gentlemen that worked on this for me was working on asbestos plant. So he's pretty familiar with, or a colleague, he's working with a colleague that was working on it. Mm-hmm. So he was pretty clear on the protocol that would be safe for everybody, if you will, both the workers and later term with the residents on the site.
Does wind carry any of that to adjacent
carry topsoil
people?
Or the soils.
Yeah.
Usually would not be anywhere near a concerned level. Uh-huh. But the idea is if you do air quality monitoring at the property line, if the wind comes up to some level, you get water on it right away. Mm-hmm. So, or calcium chloride or something else. Yeah.
So it'll be like a protocol.
It's a protocol. Yep.
To follow.
Exactly. And it's a specific one that's spelled out. So you'll be able to review that.
I guess the only one thing I'll try to look for, if it's in there, it's great. We talk about removal of invasive species, or that's a lot of that.
There's a lot of discussion.
And then a lot of that, it's in the same soil that's in the where the arsenic is. So it's just seeing how they both interplay with each other is.
Yeah, actually, a lot of those invasive species actually end up in these berms, buried, so to speak. So that does take away from the removal. The topsoil layer itself is not very thick out here. I mean, it can be as small as 1 inch to maybe up to 6 inches. So we said we're going to strip off 8 inches of soil to get really the soil that would have these impurities in them, and make sure that they're taken and covered appropriately. And with Gusta, made a point that there is mushrooms that can be used. The issue there is it's probably just not time sensitive to what we're doing out here, but thank you for that research.
I thought it was interesting.
So that's kind of the 5-minute,
Apple
10-minute,
farmers,
15-minute tour through the plans and some of the exhibits, just to show you what components there are in the site development itself. If there's any questions on any other parts of it. And Craig is here to talk to architecture if you want a little more discussion on that.
Is there a indication of how the road frontage will look from street level? Is that in our package?
We don't have, well, there's some, with the
Yeah, there's similar views from there.
with the DEIS, there was some visual.
The visual impact had some simulations from
Right.
32.
From 32.
looking both northbound, southbound, east and west, from a couple different vantage points.
So
And then
it-
one right at the main entrance itself,
Okay,
looking
I'll go back and look
west.
at that.
Yes.
Yeah,
So there are several.
yeah. The intent here with the landscape plan, Martin will describe it much better than I can, is to really create a nice community. And the plant material selections have been thought out, to be drought resistant, native type species, all the things that you kind of want to have. And they are also an enhancement. They have some berry type fruit type things to attract butterflies and songbirds and things.
And we want, and some diversity, right?
Add some diversity,
Right.
some different habitats that we're creating that are not there now. They will be there. So,
No, I just wanted elm trees all along the way and have Dutch elm or ash borer or whatever other takes out a whole
yeah.
segment at one time.
In Spider, it suggested transplanting trees. We certainly don't want to transplant big trees, but anything that's below 4 or 5 inches, 6 inches.
Identified a lot of those.
And we've identified
Right.
those in the document as well. So,
Would they be using those things that
yeah, tree spade,
do that?
tree spade.
A big spade on
The
that
big
one.
digger.
Yeah. Big digger on that one. Okay. I know, again.
They work in shale, huh?
We seem like to be sitting waiting to
Yeah,
encompass the entire document.
Sure.
I think that's what's
sure.
where the board's at on it. I think we had pretty good discussion, like I said, on the ecology. And I expect that a lot of it is going to be the same. And we have to talk, I guess, internally about how we have to see it first, then how we go through it
Okay.
on a page-by-page basis. But I think the first thing out of the box is probably going to be the general larger questions about areas that we have concern of, and then we'll get into drilling down further into, I'll call it the wordings and that are in the document. But I think we'll look for the big areas up front and then probably be able to spell out where we want to go and what order we want to go with on that. But if, from a board perspective, not seeing the document yet, not being able to talk about it,
Sure.
I can't even give you an idea of how we're going to go through it. But we'll try to that, and I think from a site plan point of view, I think we're in pretty good shape. I don't think there's any real major hang-ups on it. Again, there's all the last, any changes that we do put in, any mitigations that we put in there, have to be reflected in the site plan, so
Sure.
we'll come back to that, but I don't think we have any outstanding issues of that.
What would be the natural next step for progressing site plan review then?
I hate to get too much further into the site plan until we get through the secret document to make sure that we're looking at really the final ends of it. And then part of that will be, okay, what are the outstanding issues we have on site plan? I mean, we're going through the FEIS, we've seen all the maps and everything else on that. And we'll segregate it out. If it's a seeker or an FEIS question or document, we'll put it in this ballpark. If it's something that says, you know, it's really, it doesn't matter, but it's going to be some trees, but we're really having a debate on what trees we want in there. That may be more site plan oriented. We'll put that to the side and cover it there. So I expect going through the FEIS, we'll be able to hopefully spell out what other outstanding site plan issues that we may have and that aren't really the secret document stuff, and separate the two. So get through seeker and then take out, you know, if something comes up and we really agree that it's site plan, we'll put it over into that ballpark. But I think we got to read the big document on it and work through it. I think hopefully, you know, we've been immersed in it long enough. We've all sat through the DEIS and then know what's in there, and we'll be able to be much more knowledgeable going through the document. But I really don't have a heck of a lot more that the board can do now. You know, I can't say, okay, we got all the issues and dotted all the i's on site plan without reading the FEIS.
No, I follow that.
There's more detail too that Doug will be
You'll have-
working with as we get farther into the site plan. We haven't seen it yet, but I know at this stage we're making sure that everything's going according to this plan before you really get into the detailed design.
Right. I would expect that to come up as we go further along on it. But that's about where we're at. All right. I hate to drag you all
I had a
down.
question
Go
about
ahead.
the idea of waiting to comment on some of the historical stuff regarding site plan.
Yeah.
Doug, did you have kind of like a list of points that may have been brought up before that you were going to connect to some historical comments, or were you just waiting for us to?
I was more just going to flip through the plans to show how they evolved from one to the other. I could certainly do a listing type of situation.
No, I was just curious if, you know, as we've met several times, if you felt like you've collected, you know, some of these questions that could be answered.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, do something like that, just to highlight it maybe.
Sure.
I was just suggesting, highlight some of the, you know, questions and concerns that we've heard, you know, over the course of the last year or so.
Okay.
Maybe putting together actually like a highlight document. You know, this plan was dated when, and this was.
And here were the issues with
Here are the issues, or this is, you know, this is a 15-story.
And this is how we've arrived at where we are now.
Yeah, and then, you know, kind of,
Okay.
yeah, I think the timeline when we've sat before village, town board, planning board, zoning board, some of those reviews, what they netted. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, just, you know, one of the things we want to accomplish with that is there was this very specific scope done, and we had to prepare a very specific plan to address the scope. So we're not to the point where we're really, you know, other than obvious tweaks in here and there, where we feel like we can make some wholesale changes, and we were kind of concerned that maybe with Eileen that she might want to go in a different direction. So that was one of the purposes we wanted to make sure that we're not, you know, out in the field here and get to the point of site plan, and then all of a sudden we've created all these documents that there were some concerns with, but
No, I think
didn't sound like we're at that point. I just wanted to.
Yeah, getting to Tim's point on it is that some of the changes that came weren't initiated by you so much as suggestions from
Sure.
county, various planning board meetings and things of that sort.
Got it.
That you took incorporated, and I think you should bring that up. I know, like you mentioned quickly here, the turnaround that Dennis, but Dennis was very much, with county, very much on that boulevard approach.
Yeah.
From where you were before that.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, and they came back with that idea. So,
Okay.
keep those in there where it shows up on it. But what we'll do going forward, we'll take history of site plan from day one or before that. We'll hit the ecology with Spider and Martin, and we'll get Al and Lynn to talk about what trees and what other things we're going to be moving so we can get that. The board will have an opportunity to take a look at that. What I'll look for the board is to give me suggestions of which topics we want to cover and how we want to cover them, and then we can spread that out. I want to cover this topic. I have a lot of questions on this. This one I have a few questions. It's almost like, I hate to use the term where that lawyers, I only have about 10 minutes of cross-examination for this witness. And it usually takes an hour and a half to get through those 10 minutes. But a feel of where the emphasis are, because if everybody's pretty well satisfied and we only have a few questions on one area, I can put a couple of those issues in one agenda. But if we have a major discussion on a couple of areas, then I got to minimize what I want to do. And really, the key is we're here. I mean, the key is to make sure that we have the right people from your team down here to do that work, and to be able to answer the questions on that. So that's really where the agenda items go. But I will try to make sure in the agenda that you get for this FEIS, we have the topics that we intend to cover that night. Now, if we cover them all well and good, we all go home happy. If we don't, we just carry them over. So it's not put a time limit on it and say, okay, these are the three, we got to get them done that night. I don't intend to do that. I don't intend to make everybody brain dead at 11 o'clock either. If we don't get it finished, it just rolls over to the next meeting. And that's what we'll go forward with. Okay?
That's good.
So I'm looking forward to...
We're looking forward to giving it to you.
We're giving it to us, yes.
And I meant that in the nicest way.
Randall, did you find a way in, or you just, okay?
Well, I just wanted to let you know that we are still working on our figures for the department.
Okay.
As you know, our computer system is not the most up-to-date, and there were...
Well, don't send it out on email around here.
There were a number of... We had our meeting on April 15th, and as you know, there were a number of questions that you asked of us, and because things have to be done manually because of the way that our dispatch system operates, we're not lucky enough to have what the EMS service has. They can just punch it up and tell you how it works. But I do want you to know that we are in fact working on the data that you've asked us for. And specifically you asked us to focus on the contractual information from our budget, which would include the cost for officers. You asked us to include the calls done on an annual basis. The caveat to that request is, for the police department, calls for service does not necessarily give you the number of people who respond to a call. So a call for a lockout is different than a call for a fight at the bar. Okay. So you might have 5 people responding to the bar and 1 person for the lockout. So our information is a bit more nuanced than what you might get from other people, which is why it is in fact taking us the amount of time.
I hope it's a good exercise.
Well, it is a good exercise.
I mean, for the police department going forward, that's what I'm thinking.
It is also justification for my continued pressing for an updated computer software for the police department. So it's a double-edged sword. You also asked us for calls during peak hours, 3 to 7, 11 to 7, and capital cost, which I believe is something that is maybe a tad bit difficult because of the way, you know, we lease cars, we own some things, and depreciation, blah, 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 blah. The long and short of it, without having an approval from the commission, I can tell you off the top of our heads, generally right now, our figure is with respect to, you know, 4 officers and you need 1 for each shift, and then the 4th officer is a backup for time off, so on and so forth. Right now, without knowing what the state's, what is it, their pension increase is.
The police department of the town does not control the police budget. It is controlled strictly by the state. So coming up with a figure is a little difficult, and I use the example of from 2011 to 2012, the state increased the pension by 66%. Now, when you're going forward 25 years, it gets a little hairy trying to come up with a reasonable figure. We think we did, but there's always that caveat in everything we do because we can't control it. It's out of our control. The state just comes in and says, you will now, like in 2011, they say you'll pay us $500,000. In 2012, they came up and said you'll pay us $1.2 million. And they don't give us the backup. They just say, they just send in the bill and we have to pay it. So we've come up with what we think are reasonable figures, but we're still working on them, trying to codify them, because we don't want to be, you know, we don't want to send silly figures out there that somebody looks at them and says, what are you, this is ridiculous, you're going to spend that money and blow the whole thing. Yet by the same token, we don't want to hurt the taxpayers by undervaluing. And as Randall said, our computer system is not designed to give you that information. We were able at one point to get the calls by officer to tell us exactly how many calls. That's how we know the variance, but that part of it was taken away from us. So now all we can tell you is per call. And as Randall said, we don't know it. But if we knew, if we had the system, which would be a capital improvement of about $60,000, if we had that kind of system, we could tell you exactly what the cost per call would be, because we have all the information per officer, or at least I do. The other...
I just had a question though. You said that information was taken away from you.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means that when I asked the chief for it after your requests about the number of calls, and I wanted the same breakdown that I got for November of 2012, which gave me how many officers, how many cars, and went to a particular place, he says they took it out of the system, which is the people that, you know, how the system works. He doesn't know why, he doesn't know when, but he couldn't give me the breakdown information anymore. You still can't give me the ending calls, but at least I would have known how many calls on this call, how many officers were involved, how many officers were involved in this call, because I have that chart for 2012 or 2011. But this is these are the things out of our control that we're just trying to work on. But we don't want to just pull figures out of the air.
No, I think
it's not fair to the taxpayers. And as I said, we only got involved in it because nobody asked us for it before, until we found out guys had figures, and we said, well, where did they come from?
The other thing too is when we met on the 15th, you were given figures with the assumption that perhaps we would hire officers at a rate of $50,000, and then there was some $40,000 or $30,000 added on, so it was like $90,000, and it comes up over 25 years to $6 million. I can tell you right now that those numbers are false. They're made up, and it ain't going to work. Those numbers do not include the salary increases. They do not include the pension benefit. I mean, they're just not right. And then on top of that, you're not going to get an officer who's put in time someplace else, coming to New Paltz and taking less of a salary and loss of benefits to work for us at a made-up $50,000 figure. So it's just not gonna happen. And then the last and final point is, you know, unlike the fire department here and unlike the EMS, the town and the taxpayers are wed to our police officers for life. Most of our guys start at 18 or 19 years of age. They stay through retirement, which means they leave at 40, 42, and they go on to live long, healthy lives. And we continue to pay for those long, healthy lives for a very, very, very long time. You know, the commission is not in a position to pass judgment on project of Park Point. Our sole task is to make sure that the police department operates cost effectively for taxpayers, and in that regard we have responsibility for hiring and dismissing officers, so we need to be vigilant about managing and helping the chief control the costs. So it's incumbent upon you guys, when you sit down and think about this, is to think about the value that this project might bring to the community, but also the costs that will be associated with it. And I hate to use this metaphor, but it's like looking off the back of the Titanic and not recognizing that there's an iceberg in front of you. And that is the danger that you might encounter if we go through this and get the small amount of money that we're doing and then have to have the police officers that we need in order to protect our community. So,
just one thing I'll just throw out, when you mentioned about coverage of pension costs, for instance, and the payments that come from the state, if you identify, now there's certain, I'll call, costs that you can control, and I use that term loosely. I mean, it's hiring, firing, it's wage increases, it's union negotiations, and things of that sort, and it's capital costs and how you spend that. There are other costs that you have absolutely no say and just have to pay the bill.
Correct.
If you identify, I have no idea where this thing is going, these are, I just have to pay the bill, and identify those costs as totally out of your control. That's helpful for us also. Knowing that could go any which way.
We can look at that, and you know, I throw this out to you all as well. SUNY Police Department's budget is much larger than New Paltz Police Department's budget. SUNY Police Department has far more officers than the New Paltz Police Department. So when you ask why we need an additional 4 officers, it's minuscule compared to the number of people who are on that campus, who have police force that patrols that campus, versus the population that we have here. So there's no equality here. So I think it's important that you keep those things in mind as you go through this process, because it is a long-term commitment, and I know the chief is going to want additional patrols to cover the area. I mean, it's just going to happen, and we are down a number of officers now. So, you know, be mindful of that as you go through this process. But we would not be doing our jobs if we didn't tell you what the cost is going to be.
No, I appreciate that. And I guess I appreciate more now, and talking with you over that, of gathering the data in a format that's usable for you going forward. And you know, I always think of police calls as a call, but like you have mentioned, a bar fight and a lockout are 2 different types of police calls, but it comes up as a number 1. You know, knowing those types and breaking that down is important from that. And I think going forward from it too.
It's a learning process.
Your learning process on both sides of the can. So I appreciate what you.
Speaking of calls, keep in mind too that when fire and EMT get a call, the police come. When the police get a call, fire and EMT don't necessarily have to come.
Right.
So if EMT says their calls are going to go up 20%, our officers are trained emergent first responders. So they generally get there first because an ambulance may not be available.
Right.
So our guys get there first and hope they can stem whatever it is that's going on and then wait for EMT to get there. So, you know, that 20% increase in calls that EMT mentioned to us in our meeting on the 15th also is going to increase the calls for our police force. So it all ripples.
I do appreciate the work you're doing, and I do appreciate the complexity of trying to, you know, gather the data together on it. So I thanks very much for
Can I just interject, just to ask that tonight we go over all this stuff with you guys are there as well, so we can collectively talk about this all at once.
Yeah.
So we can make sure that all of the assumptions that we've been using are in line, and you know,
that would be great.
We got our stuff from, and where you guys are coming from, we're all together. So the board and us, and you guys can all feel comfortable with whatever the findings are in the estimate.
Well, it would be if it's. We have no objection to helping you with your assumptions. We have no objection to sitting down with you, and we were, you know, when that other meeting. But, you know, we are happy because our goal is to make it right.
Yep.
And not to guess and for all of us to come up short. Our objective is not to thwart this. It is to make sure that you're using the right numbers, you have the right information, so that we can all make the right decisions. That is our total goal.
And
here.
you definitely on that fiscal and that whole thing, and Randall will be definitely invited to it. What we try to do, and I think you fall into that category now, is, for instance, in a traffic area, we try to get our traffic consultant to work closely with their traffic consultant to make sure that we don't have any outstanding issues. We're both on the same page with that. Same that you've heard on the ecology. We've gotten our wetland inspector to work with their wetland inspector to come up with something that's meaningful. Dave is a town engineer, and Doug working on those things. I think in the areas that we're talking about, we need your expertise to be in attendance to make sure that we're all, you know, just like you said, coming at it from the same point of view.
Well, we're laid out of the gate, so we bear some of the responsibility for not being at the table with you sooner. We should have been doing this in 2010, and I can't speak for what we were doing. So, I mean, all I can do is apologize and say
it's a learning for both of us.
Not to be a pain in your butts, but it's just the way it is.
Thanks for coming tonight, though. I do appreciate it. Yes, go ahead. You got one. Go for it.
I have 3 quick questions. One, I wasn't at the last meeting, and just to be clear in my own head, the first numbers that we have from so long ago, no one knows where they came from, and they're apparently completely made up. Is that true?
Which numbers are we?
In the original DEIS, there were police department numbers that apparently no one...
Well,
we know where they came from.
There were assumptions that SUNY was going to, and we could have saved you guys a lot of problems because we could have told you right off the bat when we saw that SUNY's not going to do it. Their contract won't allow them off. So.
Okay, all right. Number 2, could we get some kind of a timeline from when we might get more accurate numbers from you guys?
Well, we have numbers that are, what percentage would you say?
Just put them on the spot, why not?
No, because we're waiting. I mean, the state could come tomorrow and say, pension benefits going forward are going to go up to 82%.
Well, related to that, I wonder if we could have, instead of just waiting on one number, kind of like maybe 3 different scenarios of like this, if this happens, then this would be a more accurate number. Or if this happens, then this would be more,
Well, we would need to know what the ifs are so that we can...
Exactly.
So if A
just to get some sort of working, range.
Well, that's why I kind of asked them, the totally uncontrolled costs on that, because I think when we see what the numbers are, then we can, okay, this is a totally uncontrolled cost. It comes from the state in a sealed envelope. Let's banter back and forth and get ideas of, well, where was it for the last 5 years? What's an expectation, and band it going out 5 years, just to get a handle on that.
And the chief even has a sense of, a couple of the questions that he says, are they aware of the challenges of policing in a college town? I mean, it's something I'm not a police officer, so I don't. I mean, so, there are things that are key to his process to how he runs that department based on what we have. And, you know, those are questions that he can answer. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight, but those are the types of things that he makes us look at.
Yep.
When we have to make decisions about, yeah, we're going to give him a new officer, or no, we're not going to give him a new officer. You know, so it's not as easy as one might think.
Question
Your
3.
third question.
No, that was my 3. Yeah, well, one was the timeline, one was rather not, yeah.
Yes.
As far as those numbers go, those numbers were asked of people who have no idea of the cost.
I guess that was my question. Thanks.
Those people that were asked this question work with the budget. Now, the budget is very nice. If you look at the budget, it's got this and it's got that in it, but it doesn't have the costs involved. Now, that 50,000 that Randall was talking about, 50 and 30, now, that was worked by people who do budget. $50,000 for 25 years with no raises is not logical. You can put that into the budget, but that's not the way it's going to work. It's not a logical figure. It also, as I was told, includes pension and medical. It leaves out workers' comp, it leaves out FICA, it leaves out all the subliminal costs because they're not used to working with them. What we did as the commission is I started with a cost in 2011, just you understand, and I have the cost of every officer that we had for 2011, the actual cost. That includes his salary, his overhead, and everything else. That was our starting point. That's why we have such a variance in numbers. We have a number, and it doesn't include, it's guesses in terms of the big number. I mean, workers' comp is going to be workers' comp. It's going to vary a little bit. Pension, you say use a 5-year thing. So for 5 years, we were paying $300,000, $200,000, and then in the 5th year, we paid $1.2 million.
Yeah, that's that's a very...
That's one of the things that you asked that that I have in my notes. That is not something we can firm a lot. We can estimate.
Yeah.
And I didn't estimate a 66% increase every year. Because for whatever the spike was, the state screwed up. You know, or things have gotten more expensive and the state screwed up. And what happens when the state has to bring in more money to fill their contractual needs, it goes up by, because they just say, give us the money. It's the same thing with the contracts. You can't say we're not going to have any increases. I don't care what anybody says. Even if you want to hold it down for no increases for 1 year, for 2 years, the state, which controls our contract too, by the way, there are certain things within the contract the state controls, it's going to say, no, you can't do it. So we did, you know, what we did, as Randall says, do I think I have figures? I think I have between 85 and 90% accurate. I think I'm low. I think I'm very low. We looked at the financial person on the town board, looked at my figures and says, what do you, that's too low. And she's more familiar with it than I am because she works with it every day. I had to foil and get information. So, you know, we'll have it. It's just that I can't tell you when because we're still so much up in the air. And like I said, I don't want to say 90,000 when the real figure is 15,000. And I don't want to say 15,000 when the real figure is 40,000. And that's what we're trying to do as a commission, because we all work with this on a day-to-day basis. I mean, Randall talks about the ambulance corps. That's not one officer that goes there. On an ambulance corps, if you looked at the report, we can't get any more, it will show two and three officers going depending upon the call. If it's a heart attack, they'll wind up with the one officer and the other one will come to detect because it gets involved. That's why those reports were so important to us that we just weren't able to get. Now that it dropped off, according to, and we don't know why, the chief doesn't know why, we're in the process of talking to the computer company, to be, you know, so you don't think...
Yeah, I think you're finding out that...
Do you have a question?
Yeah, 2 questions. Number 1 is, are you taking into account the number of calls are being handled by the state police and sheriff's department as well as the town police?
Well, if they're, my understanding is, in the way that, and there is some place up in Kingston, the way the calls are doled out, and depending on where they come in through 911, they go to the police department in the locality. So if a call came into 911 and if it was here, it would go to the New Paltz Police Department, and if there was nobody to handle it, it would then go over to the state police. I mean, yeah, we have Ulster County and we have the sheriff and the state police. They all ride through here. But when there's a 911 call, they go to New Paltz Police, And if they need backup or assistance from all the others, they make the determination. And I think it's some kind of courtesy thing where they don't like swim in anybody's pool unless they're asked to swim in it. So
The reason for my question is because the state and the sheriff is cutting back on their road patrols. So that's what might have an effect if they're doing a number of calls in New Paltz, and if they're being cut back, it's going to increase the number of calls.
Right. Where it would have a major effect, and we haven't taken that into consideration per se, is the downtown business areas. Because when it really gets bad, and if you look at the number of calls, which is, I mean, we're just talking calls, according to what you asked us, was what, Randall, over 2,000 for 1 year? Now, that's just the number of calls. That doesn't give us the personnel. It used to, as I said. But when that gets cut back, somebody's going to have to cover that. And that's why when we did our calculation, now, when you got whatever calculation you got, which was for 3 offices, again, it was done by somebody who has no concept. Because 3 offices is one additional officer per shift, and you need somebody to go in there when the guy's, on the weekend, when he's not there anymore. But based upon the number of calls, and remember, when you add 600 more people, what that downtown area is going to start to look like. This is the way we figured it. We figured it on what it was going to be the cost to the taxpayers of New Paltz. If the sheriff cuts back, that's an unknown by us. We don't. If the sheriff says, "Well, we're not going to help," or "We can't help," or "We're going to be in the garden," or whatever, we don't know that. It's an unknown because we don't get their calls. We don't get their assistance. We only get when they call New Paltz and say, "Hey, you got a call at a bar, or you got a call at a restaurant."
Do you have another? You had 2?
They roll. They we start off with 2. Okay. Well, thanks. I know what you're going through. I appreciate what you're going through a lot better than knowledge on it. I hope it's helpful. I hope what you're doing is helpful for you for running the department more efficiently.
We won't go through this drill again.
I hope you get a system.
It'll be easier than
I can say from a taxpayer point of view in the town. I hope you get a system that makes this type of work easier, because you'll be working much more efficiently all around on it, and you shouldn't for that kind of data, and it tells you what kind of people you need.
It will also help the police department because it will identify the hot spots. Right now, a bar, 1 call. Is that a hot spot as compared to the town? 1 call, the guy went to open up the guy's car. It's very necessary for the police department, in my opinion anyway, to operate efficiently and at the best cost to the taxpayers,
Okay. I thank you all. Is there anything else?
It's irrelevant, never mind.
I'll answer, it'll be quick if you
Okay. If the police knew what your calls were costing you, can you recover your costs in fines if you have an arrest?
No. Can we? Oh, the article, what is it?
No. Under the law, and this has to be approved, and we can't do it, but under the law, if you arrest somebody, under the law, you're entitled to sue them for what it costs to have them arrested. But that's a very involved process. But you can recover it. We get certain monies back for doing certain things for the state. That we recover. And that's included in my calculations, how much money we get back. But no, yes, legally, you arrest somebody for drunk and disorderly, he goes to court, and it costs you, let's say, from this program, $160, you can sue him for $160 under the law.
But the town justice can't just add that to his fine and hand it over to the police.
No, and they
No, we sue, the police sue, yeah.
On that too. They basically say we're not a revenue generator for the police department, so they don't necessarily want to do that.
It's slippery slope.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. Although the police department, for certain things, enters into contracts with individual groups to take care of things, like the school district for their events and things like that. So, but it's illegal for us to charge for protection outside of.
Well, that sounds ominous. I think we should terminate it here at this present time before we get that quote into the paper like that. Okay. Anything else for the board? I take a motion for the meeting to adjourn. So moved. Yeah.
One question.
Ah.
Where do we stand on the other two areas of the financial aspect of it?
We've gone back to them. I gave them the same list of questions, or I shouldn't say the same list, different questions on it, and we're trying to follow up to see where the status of the information is. Like I said, theirs is easier than what the police has to go through on it. So I'll let you know. We'll try again. Hopefully we'll have something in the next week or two on that. Okay. Well, you can get some of the hockey game in. You may not want to know what the rest of the hockey game is. You know?
Mike? Yes. I have one request for your planning board, please. You're not ADA compliant.
I know.
So, I mean, I don't come to them, so I normally wouldn't complain. But not being ADA, you know, I had the JOD get the towns to become ADA compliant, and they are. Your board is. They went out and bought, they were required to buy microphones.
Oh!
And they have them, and